After many years in the house of Marpa the translator, Milarepa was at last given leave to depart. Marpa had told him to go and practice alone in the wild mountains, but first to return to his native village, to see the home of his childhood and the mother he had left behind. So Milarepa set out on the long road back toward Gungthang in the western reaches of Tibet, near the border of Nepal. He carried with him no gold and no possessions, only the teachings he had received and a heart heavy with longing. For the whole journey he thought of one thing, the face of his mother, Nyansa Karjian, and the day he would kneel before her again. But the closer he came to home, the stranger he felt. A traveler he met along the way spoke of his own family without knowing who Milarepa was. The man told him that the great sorcerer of that house had gone away long ago, that the mother had died, and that the daughter had wandered off, no one knew where. Milarepa listened in silence, hardly able to breathe. He told himself the man might be wrong, that rumor twists everything. Yet a cold dread settled into his chest, and he walked the last miles with slow, unwilling steps. When he reached the village at last, he came to the house that had once been full of life. It was a ruin. The fine home of his father, Milarepa Gyaltsen, the proud house of a prosperous trader, had fallen into decay. The roof had caved in. The walls were cracked and leaning. Rain and wind had done their work for years. The field where he had played as a child lay choked with weeds, gone wild, returned to the wilderness. Nettles grew thick where the grain had once stood golden in the sun. There was no smoke from any hearth, no voice, no sound at all but the wind moving through the broken rooms. Milarepa stepped inside. In the rubble of the collapsed house, among fallen stones and rotted timbers and heaps of earth, he found a low mound covered with rags and dust. He brushed it away, and there beneath it lay a small pile of human bones. He knew at once whose they were. They were the bones of his mother. She had died alone in poverty in this falling house, with no one to tend her body, no one to perform the rites, no son at her side. The very woman who had sent him out into the world, who had once burned with the longing for revenge, who had sworn she would take her own life if he failed her, had died waiting for a son who came too late. Something broke in Milarepa, and something also opened. He gathered the bones of his mother into his arms and wept as a man weeps only once in his life. The grief was bottomless, but within that grief a great truth rose up and overwhelmed him completely. This was impermanence. This was the law of all things that are born and must pass away. His father, the rich trader, was gone. His mother was a handful of bones. The proud house was a heap of stones. The fields were a tangle of weeds. The wealth, the quarrels, the cruelty of the uncle and aunt, the revenge that had cost 35 lives, all of it had come to this silence and this dust. Everything he had ever loved or hated in this world had dissolved like a dream at waking. He did not run from the pain. Instead, he made of it his teacher. He resolved to use his mother's very remains as the support for his meditation. He sat down among the ruins, with the bones held close, and let the truth of impermanence cut all the way through him to the root. Whatever thin thread still bound him to the ordinary world, the hope of property, of family, of a settled life, of comfort or revenge or reputation, all of it fell away in those hours. He saw with perfect clarity that worldly life offers nothing but sorrow at the end. There, in the wreck of his childhood home, Milarepa made his renunciation total and final. He would not chase after wealth, nor family, nor any pleasure of this passing world. He would give the whole of his remaining life to one thing only, the attainment of liberation, in solitude, until enlightenment or death. This is the deepest lesson of his homecoming. We often imagine that loss is only loss, that grief only takes from us. Yet for Milarepa, the sight of his mother's bones became the doorway to freedom. Impermanence, faced honestly, is not despair but the great awakener. It strips away every illusion that things will last, and in doing so it shows us where lasting peace must truly be sought. The same blow that shatters the heart can also open it. What looked like the end of everything became, for him, the true beginning. In the next chapter, we will follow Milarepa as he turns his back on the world of men and walks up into the high mountains, into the lonely caves where he will spend long years in fierce and solitary practice, clothed in a single cotton cloth, living on nettles, and kindling within his own body the mysterious inner heat that would carry him through the Himalayan winters toward the realization he had vowed to win.